The first one is Daniel Olivier. He's the Director of Business Intelligence and Innovation of the Port of Montreal. His project is towards a smart port city interface, integrating AI Harbour, trucking management. Thank you. With all of you, Daniel Olivier.
Okay, thank you very much for being here. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I see it's a full house, so that's great. So I will be talking about how digital is actually forcing ports to rethink the relationship and the integration between cities and ports. Because this is a smart city conference, I thought I couldn't think of a better subject than harbor trucking. To actually, the story I wish to tell is how the Port of Montreal, what kind of efforts we're making to keep the peace between the city and the port when it comes to managing trucks. Because as you all know very well, trucks are major and significant generators of ports are major and significant generators of truck traffic. A port like Shanghai, any idea how many trucks a day a port like Shanghai can generate? Anyone? Sorry? 10 million, not that many in one day. Any other guess? 60,000 trucks in a day. So how do you manage that, right? So Montreal, we're certainly no Shanghai, but we still generate 2,500 trucks a day. So for a city of the size like Montreal, that's significant. So I'm here to present two projects that are leveraging artificial intelligence to better proactively manage these trucks so that these trucks actually don't spend time on city streets and add to the congestion. So what I have in store very quickly, for those of you who are not so familiar with Montreal, just a very quick overview, and then I would like to say a few words about why innovation is so important for us as a market differentiator, and then spend some time presenting these two AI-driven projects to increase truck fluidity, and a few concluding remarks. So without further ado, Port of Montreal, we're the second largest port in Canada. We're the fifth largest port for container market on the east coast of North America. And we're a very diversified port, fortunately enough. So we do liquid bulk, dry bulk, containers, of course, and we have a small yet very fast-growing cruise industry. So as you can see from the graph, we are experiencing very interesting and sustained growth in our container sector. So this is the story of Montreal in the container business for the last 50 years. And our unique position in the market allows us to service 7 of the 10 largest container lines. But what you'll notice is for the last 2 years, we've been growing at double-digit rates, which is a good problem, you'll say. Because of CETA and our capacity to tap into new emerging markets through transshipment, this growth has been fast and unpredicted. And unfortunately, it also led to more trucks, meaning more congestion. So unfortunately for the Port of Montreal, we've been attracting press attention in the last 2 years for the wrong reasons. So what are we doing about it? This slide just very quickly saying that there's a lot of money right now being invested in container ports all across the North American East Coast. Port of Montreal as a river port is unique. We compete against ocean ports that are up to 5 times our size and up to 15 times our financial capabilities. So we know we can't win that race. In just basically the race to add more infrastructure to relieve capacity. So what do we do? The answer is simple: innovation. Innovation to improve the customer experience and also make sure that there's a good, sustainable relationship between the port and the city and keep our port fluid at the same time. So ports obviously are in a dilemma. Before you add capacity, you absolutely want to make sure that you're leveraging and optimizing existing infrastructure. And that's where smart solutions come in, okay? So how do you do that? You basically have to control demand, right? For the same infrastructure, you have to have some form of leverage over demand. And how do you do that is by changing behavior. So as a port authority, we're not a transactional player, but we still yield fairly an amount of influence over our supply chain partners. In the case of Harbour Trucking, you can influence truck drivers' behavior directly by such things like night gates. So last year, a year ago, we implemented night gates. Believe it or not, until a year ago, our gates for trucks were only open 8 hours in a 24-hour day. So 16 hours, the infrastructure is sitting idle, which is ridiculous. Now I'm happy to say that only after a year, 20% of truckers are now using night gates, so that the actual truck flow and demand has flattened over time. Another strategy has been to launch the trucking portal. This is basically, it's a free app that's available to truck drivers and dispatchers on their mobile to provide them real-time information about congestion levels at the port by terminal. So they can consult what is the transaction time in real time and adjust their trips and their better plan and optimize their deliveries at the port. So if, for example, a truck driver has 5 containers to pick up at the port in one day, he sees that the congestion level is high, he can defer his transactions to later in the day or even do those transactions the following day. The other thing we want to do is notify truck drivers in advance, because inside the port there's a conflict between rail and truck passages. So it's really important whenever there's a train disruption to notify truck drivers in advance so that they can also adjust and plan ahead. But what I'm really here to present today is the predictive analytics. So truck drivers are telling us, it's great, you're giving me real-time information, but you know what? What I really want to know is what will be the congestion level Monday morning or this afternoon or tomorrow. So that's one approach. The other approach, obviously, terminal operators also played our part in changing behavior of truck drivers. They implement new technologies at the gate to fast track and accelerate the transaction process. Now we have pre-gate notification process, so the truck driver can actually do the transaction on his phone before he leaves the warehouse, even before he actually arrives at the port, so that the whole process is fast-tracked. And another project that I will be presenting using AI is container inspection process. So what I want to do for the remainder of the time I have is actually spend time on these 2 projects and how we're leveraging artificial intelligence to improve the whole truck driver experience. So this is the trucking portal I was talking about. Very quickly, actually, one thing I need to say is at 1 o'clock, we'll actually be presenting a deep dive of this application right across at the booth. So for those who are interested in this kind of solution and smart technology, please join us at 1 o'clock just across here. So basically, truck driver will use the app and will see in real time what is the congestion level and how many minutes he can expect to complete a transaction. So the green you see, there's a color code. The psychological threshold for a truck driver in Montreal is 60 minutes. They expect their transactions to be complete in 60 minutes. Either drop off a container, pick up a container, should be within 60 minutes. If it's above that, it's either yellow or red. So consult this. We have visuals to support also. If there's a queue, he can see where the bottleneck actually is. Truck driver can also set alerts, so if I'm going to the port only on Monday mornings and I want to be alerted when I judge that the wait time is unacceptably high, so he receive an SMS or email. The other thing as well is we have greenhouse gas reduction emission goals also attached to this fluidity measure. So there's an algorithm that will actually calculate from transaction times how much greenhouse gas in real time is being emitted from truck activity at the port. So like I said, there's land use conflict between truck and rail. So the port is where all 4 modes collide, and it can be a little chaotic. So this little passage here, this is the actual, what you see is the truck gate. So in a typical day, about 2,000 trucks go through here. That's 200 trucks per hour that have to cross this little passage to get inside the port, and sometimes rail interferes, right? So what we want to do is actually notify truck drivers that actually there will be a train in the next 2 hours. If you expect to be at the port in 2 hours, maybe you want to stop for a donut or coffee, chill out, and let the train go by. But this is really what I'm here to present today in Barcelona. This is unique and it's unprecedented. So like I said, truck drivers really enjoy the real-time information, but what they really want is to know ahead and forecast how it's going to be in a few hours or the next day. So we have partnered with a local artificial intelligence startup based in Montreal to develop an algorithm that will actually use machine learning and then predict congestion levels ahead of time. So the truck driver experience will now look like this. We'll know what the real-time processing time is, but we'll also know in 30-minute increments what he can expect in the next 2 hours, or even by clicking the little plus sign here, we'll also know what the expected congestion levels will be in the next 24 hours, all right? So things get quite nasty, especially early in the morning, rush hour, Monday mornings. Customers want their box that came in by ship on the Friday. They're rushing the trucks to get the boxes and pick up the boxes. So the truck drivers will want to know how it's going to be the following day. So that's really, and you're probably thinking, yeah, this guy is telling me he wants to change behavior. How do we measure that? Obviously, our turn times have improved since we implemented the portal, and we expect them to further improve once the predictive capabilities are in place. If we're good, Santa Claus will probably put this into production for us right about Christmas time. So this is basically a teaser that I presented today. It's not yet in production, but it should be in a few weeks. So we also use Google Analytics to track behavior and take-up rate of the application. So we know how many users are online, how long they're using the application, is it mobile, is it desktop, and what time of day they're actually using the portal. The other project that I wish to talk about is actually a partnership with a local Montreal startup called CanScan. Actually, there's a representative that's with us today. If you are interested in talking to them, they're at the booth for the whole day. So as we speak today, every container that comes in by truck at the Port of Montreal is verified and checked by human beings for integrity, physical integrity I'm talking about. So basically, every container that comes in has to be verified by a person, and then what the solution proposes is to use an image recognition algorithm that will use video feeds and then detect the container information, identity, will also detect whether there's a seal. Containers have to be sealed for integrity and cargo security. So is there a seal? Is the seal broken? Is it intact? And what's the status of the seal? It will also look for rust and damage for cargo insurance and liability. And finally, it will also be able to detect structural damage to the container. So most of you are thinking, hey, what's really innovative in that? Image recognition exists for many years, but it's one thing to detect a seal, which is about this big. It's another thing to have an algorithm detect if the seal is broken or not. Add to that, Montreal receiving 200 centimeters of snow every year. You've got weather conditions that are certainly not helping. So the expertise that CanScan are developing in Montreal really turns out to be unique in the world. And we expect this to actually fast-track and accelerate the truck transaction times at the Port of Montreal. So I'm running out of time. Thankfully, this is my last slide. So takeaways. Basically, harbor trucking is a major irritant for cities. And the Port of Montreal is actually taking very proactive and extremely innovative measures. Once this goes online at around Christmas time, we'll be the only port in the world to actually do that. So it's quite a project. It's really about fluidity, but it's also about reducing a carbon footprint as well, because a fluid port is also a greener port. So it's also about customer experience. That's really what smart solutions are about. We think that predictive capabilities will greatly enhance demand control and should flatten even further the demand over the day. And finally, it's an integrated vision. We started with trucking information, we're adding rail, and eventually we want to add also vessel information, so to have a full and complete experience to the truck community. So with that, I'm running out of time, and I thank you sincerely for your attention. I'll be around all day. If you have questions, please look for the guy in the light blue jacket. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.